Good evening, and welcome to the first edition of the Rankin-Mon Valley Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women for the year 2024. My name is Patricia Blewett, and I am the section's corresponding secretary. And with me is also Alice Paler Days, who is our section's on our section's political party. We thank all of you who have participated in our previous programs, and we hope that you will join us again tonight with your questions by calling 412-853-8206. And that number will be at the bottom of the screen. Our guests today, we have some outstanding guests, and they are all members of the National Council of Negro Women. Joining us today will be our president, Dr. Cheryl Maccabee, along with our first vice president, Reverend Dr. Terry Griffin, our second vice president, Signora Watson, and our third vice president, Dr. Rosalie Smalley. This program today will satisfy the mission of the National Council of Negro Women, which is to lead, empower, and advocate for women of African descent, their families, and their communities. Today's program will also satisfy the National Council of Negro Women's Good Health Wins initiative. Before we begin the show, we'd like to introduce our special guest. We'll start with Dr. Cheryl Maccabee, Esquire. Dr. Maccabee is president of the Rankin-Mon Valley Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women. As president, Dr. Maccabee is responsible for presiding over all the meetings and serving as an ex officio on all the committees except the auditing and the nominating and election. Alice, would you like to take the next person that we're going to introduce?
The next person is going to be Dr. Terry Griffin.
And Dr. Terry Griffin is the first vice president of the Rankin-Mon Valley Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women. And as first vice president, Dr. Griffin serves as chairperson of the program committees and is responsible for developing programs for our section. Our next person?
The next person is going to be Signora Watson.
Now, Miss Sonora is the second vice president of the Rankin-Mon Valley Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women. As the second vice president, Sonora serves as chairperson of the membership committee and is responsible for overseeing membership recruitment, retention, and reclaiming activities. And last but not least, we have Ms. Go ahead.
Dr. Rosalie Smalley.
Right. And Dr. Smalley is the third vice president for our section. And she serves as chairperson of the Good Health Wins Committee. And she also is chair of the she's a co-chair of the Education Committee and the Collegiate section. So welcome, ladies. How are you all tonight?
Hi, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, we welcome you all, and thank you for being on our program. So we're going to start with our questions. Did you want to go with the first section of questions, Alice?
Well, yes. I'd like to hear how NCNW started and who started it. Whose bright idea was it to do that, to start it?
Well, I can give you a little bit of information on that. Back in 1935, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune decided that she needed to come up with a program that would be beneficial to African American people. She started the NCNW, and she started it in the city of New York, and she was instrumental in getting several organizations to come together. In fact, I think it was 28 different women's organizations that actually came together to form this wonderful organization. Her mission was to advance opportunities and the quality of life for African American women and their families. Um, why did she create it? She created it because there wasn't a voice for women at that time, and especially African American women. And she
Mhm.
decided that she needed to be that voice and get people involved in that type of program. Um, there's a slogan for the NCNW. And back in the 1970s, when the Black Power movement was in charge, the slogan was faith, leadership, and culture. And then it changed to commitment, unity, and self reliance. What are the values, our core values? The core values of the program is social justice and the value of the national NCNW Social Justice Committee are in alignment with the greater overall values of NCNW Greater Unity Partnership, with similar alignments, organizations, and communities, educational, economical, empowerment, spiritual development, positive cultural expression, and tradition. Dr. Bethune actually worked with many of the presidents that were in charge at that time, and she
Mhm.
developed this program so that we all have the opportunity. Now, let me tell you about somebody who was very instrumental in helping Dr. Bethune. There was a lady who lived right here in the city or Pittsburgh area. In fact, she lived in a small community called Rankin, which is a small little bitty community that's right between Swissville and when you come over the Rankin Bridge to get into the Route 837. Her name was Dorothy Heights. Now, Dorothy Heights actually came to the city of Rankin when she was 5 years old with her parents. She became very, very involved in her community. She actually was part of the Rankin Christian Community Center, which would not allow Black children to come into the center. So what she did was she sat down with one of the ministers who was in charge and she talked to them about why they should allow the children in and how she would be helpful in helping the kids with their homework. One of the things that she found out that she was very, very good at was talking. And at school, at the Rankin High School, she became really involved in a group that was part of oration. So she got involved in the oration committee. She actually was so good that she won several opportunities to speak around the country. One top opportunity was that she got a full scholarship to Bayard College. Well, when it was time for her to go to there, she, her brother, and her sisters, they got the car and they went to New York and they got to the college. And guess what? The college told her that she couldn't come in because they already had their quota. They already had their quota of Negroes for that year. They had two, and they weren't letting any more in. Well, that didn't disappoint her and that didn't stop her because her brother got her back in that car and they went to New York University. And there she walked in and he told her, go tell them who you are and what you're all about. And when she walked out of there, she had a full scholarship to New York University. She
I
was the
remember
president.
that. I remember that incident because I grew up in Rankin, and I
Okay.
remember that when that happened, everybody was just talking about it and so upset about it.
Were
But
you
I
were you
remember
part of the group when she came back to start the National Council of Negro Women, Alice,
no,
in 2009? Well,
no.
2009 she came back to Rankin and she won because they didn't have it. And she got that group started. She invited women in and she talked about it at the Rankin Christian Center and actually got our section started at that time. She went on to become the president for 40 years in the organization. And before she passed, they even created a postage stamp with her. She was the 40th member of the Black community who had a postage stamp in honor of her. So that's a little bit of trivia about the National Council of Negro Women, and especially about our section, the Rankin, Mon Valley, Pittsburgh section. And now we're
And
going to
it's,
go on. Go ahead.
no, isn't it amazing that all she has accomplished, that we're still fighting the race issue?
You know, it is. It makes you wonder, when are we going to learn and move on? Now we have Dr. Cheryl. Did you want to add anything about the history of the National Council?
Well, yes, because one thing that I'm the most proud of is the fact that Mary McLeod Bethune was honored by becoming the first African American in Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol. And that happened July 13th, 2022. And I just think that's, that's fabulous that the Congress has recognized her by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. Okay. As the president, um, what are some of the goals that you have this year as a mission for our 2024 for our section?
Well, there are many goals. We have a new, very active president, Siobhan Arlene Bradley, and she has instituted so many things to basically standardize and make sure that we are all the chapters across the country are doing the same thing. So what we're doing basically is to get in line with what the national wants and make sure that all the chapters are cohesive and comparable, and no one's out there doing something or have bylaws that aren't the same as everybody else. She's trying to just restructure and make sure that we're just one group with one mind.
Okay. Dr. Blackaby, do you know what some of our committees are and organizations that we have within our chapter?
Oh, sure. We have, matter of fact, the biggest committee right now, the one that's really, well, I won't say the biggest, but one that's really got a lot on their plate is the bylaws committee, because our bylaws are going to be standardized. We'll be able to add some of our own local, planks, but basically our bylaws will be standardized with what nationally. Everybody will have the same bylaws. We have a Ways and Means committee. We have a committee now for our legacy luncheon in March, and that's honoring our ladies that are over 80, and so I hope people just get out and buy tickets to that, because that's going to be a wonderful thing at the DoubleTree Hotel. We have a political committee. We have an education committee. We have so many various publicity committee. There's just the standard committees that you would have in an organization. But I think that our legacy luncheon is really going to be great in March. Okay. And I hope that people really buy tickets and come to that.
Okay. Now, ladies, I'm going to put the charge out there. This is not the typical interview session. This is a conversation we're going to have. So whenever you feel like you want to jump in, come on in and tell us something about what you're thinking about NCNW. First of all, I'm just going to pose a question out there. What made you join the organization? Anybody?
I'll jump in. Thank you.
Okay.
My mother was a member of the National Council of Negro Women, and I was involved in a lot of things. And when I was asked to be a part of it, it just brought back memories, and I thought it was my time to join and honor, what my mother believed in years ago.
Oh, great. Anybody else want to add something to that?
Well,
I would just say ditto. My mother was a member also and brought me in as a young woman into the former Pittsburgh chapter. So, it's interesting that a lot of us were raised in it. So we have to make sure that all the young ladies coming along now, like our chapter out at Robert Morris, and we're trying to get that chapter at the University of Pittsburgh. We have to make sure that all the young ladies now know about this, so that they can, become members and know what's going on.
Okay.
I joined because my profession is social work, and I saw this as a unique opportunity to get involved with the community. And particularly, I got involved at the time when the pandemic had struck, and one of our major projects is Good Health Wins, and that's a program that we're working very diligently to increase vaccination awareness and a number of other things, which I'll talk about later. But definitely, it was an opportunity to get involved and be of service to my community, and particularly interested in serving African American women.
Right.
And I think I joined because of the racism that I grew up around. I'm from the South, and have experienced a lot of racism. And that's the reason why I joined, because I love to see Black women come together and accomplish. You know, we have goals that we're helping other young Black women go to college and get an education, and that's what pushed me to join.
Okay.
And you know, we have
Okay.
the core mission of helping African American women and their families, but we also have those programs, the economic empowerment program that we want to, you know, get out there and deal with economic empowerment, education, health equity, and social justice. And you know, I think that the issues that my mother dealt with are different than the issues we're dealing with today for African American families.
Right.
Yeah, that we're dealing with.
The racism is there, but it's not as blunt as it used to be. But it's still, and we still need to teach the young people how to deal with the racism, the do's and the don'ts.
Right.
I think it's more underground, and I think our charge is to raise awareness so that our young people can recognize and identify it, to be prepared to handle it, but in a way that does not demean them or take away from who and what they are.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, it says that the National Council
of their dreams.
You know, I had a.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
I was saying, and also to help them follow their dreams. And don't let somebody tell them, "Oh, you can't do that, girl. You know you can't do that."
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Our kids hear a lot of that.
They do. And Cheryl, were you going to add something to that?
Well, I was going to say that the structural and institutional racism we have today is as someone had said, underground. But I was with a group of Caucasian folks from Ukraine on the New Year's Eve, and we were talking about reparations, and they would say, "But how can you figure out who should be doing what?" And I said, "Well, why don't they just go and have reparations, being that you don't pay taxes for 5 years? That way, that doesn't affect anybody basically, and it still would. Those people who are descendants of slaves, only descendants of slaves, reparations would be no federal taxes for 5 years. What would that cost?" And matter of fact, one person said, "You know, that's a good idea, because the money that they would save and the money that people would get, they would go out and then spend it more as almost like a tax break for, you know, or on other situations." And so, and that was something these Ukrainian folks thought, you know, that might be not bad.
Okay, ladies, we have our first caller on the line, and we have a caller. Her name is Donna, and she is from Homewood. Hi, Donna. How are you?
Hi, ladies. You all look beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to congratulate the section on keeping the legacy of Dr. Height alive by keeping Rankin in the section's name. And I know you talked a little about the Legacy Awards Luncheon, which was also inspired by Dr. Height. And my question is, there was a movement a while back to have the name or the word Negro removed from the National Council of Negro Women. And I'm just wondering what each of you think about that. And I'll hang up and listen because I can hear better off. But thank you all for coming on, and have a good day.
Thank you. And Happy New Year's, Donna.
Okay,
Okay,
I think I would
anybody
like to respond to that. I'd like to
Go ahead.
respond to that, and in the context of history. We were colored people, Negroes, Black, African American, and now there are names associated with us that we can't even say. But this is my opinion. That's a part of our history. And when you start taking things out, you don't, in my opinion, acknowledge a part of that history and the significance. In as much as there were things that happened to us as colored people, slaves, Negroes, or what have you, nevertheless, that's a part of our history. And I think that's a part of our responsibility to teach our young people.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
Well, I agree with her that we because when you start eliminating things from our history, the young people don't know about it, and they just lose it. You lose it.
Right. Exactly. When I was working at the Boys and Girls Club, we stopped showing the cartoon about Martin Luther King Jr. because the kids didn't believe he was a real person. They thought he was a cartoon character. So we would just use pictures of him and explain, not because they saw the cartoon and that's who they saw. They didn't understand that this was a real person that contributed to the history of African Americans. So we actually stopped showing that cartoon at the club so that our kids would realize that this is a real person and
a
what
real
he
life. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
One of the things that
they would benefit from what he was fighting for.
Right. Go ahead. Who else was someone getting ready to say something?
I was getting ready to comment on Siggy. You're hearing your noise in your home. I was going to comment on something our president Cheryl mentioned, and that is about our new national president. Not only is she working with the sections to get us in compliance from a programmatic perspective, but she is a person who gets invited to the White House and other significant places that are important. And when we think of our mission, leading, advocating, and empowering women, there are those in our society who want to ban our books, take away diversity, equity, and inclusion, take away advanced educational opportunities for people of color. And it is wonderful to remember who we were and what we did, but it's also as important to recognize we are up against some very negative, deplorable persons who would restrict who we are as people of color, who would try to deny us our educational opportunities. And so when I think of empowerment, when I think of advocating, this is a time when the National Council of Negro Women's voice absolutely needs to be heard. My 2 cents.
Okay.
I think what you're saying is so true. Matter of fact, I'm very concerned that the president of Harvard has resigned. The first African American female president of Harvard has resigned. And, people are the woman who asked the question that led to her resignation is so proud of herself, but I'm not sure why she should be proud of herself, because she is someone who is beholden to a man who has said that when they had the Nazis marched in Virginia, he said there are good people on both sides. So if you can support someone who says there are good people on both sides of the Nazis marching in Virginia, how dare you ask a question to these presidents and condemn them when you yourself should look within?
And I want to jump in on programs if you wanted to ask a question of me, because there's some things that come to mind based on our conversation this evening that I am hoping to have the opportunity to propose for 2024 in our section.
Okay. Well, go right ahead.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I think you did an excellent job explaining some of the things that I'm responsible for as the first vice president. My responsibilities include serving in a leadership capacity when our president is not available, serving on the executive committee, and also developing and implementing programs in consultation with our committee chairs for implementation. And so, as chair of the program committee, it's my responsibility to work with all the chairs. And I think someone mentioned Ways and Means. Ways and Means Committee is really important because that is the committee that undergirds the activities that we plan and develop. So I think that's really significant. But one of the things that I want to probably propose this year is that as we align ourselves with the 4 pillars that were established by national, that being social justice, health equity, economic empowerment in entrepreneurial activities, and education, that when we think of empowerment, we have got to reach out to these young people on college campuses and high schools who are being put down, who are not being celebrated. And if we don't help them find their voice, and if we don't be the voice that walks in step with them, then we're going to look at a society of African American women and our families and communities go down the drain. And I will be the first one to say I'm a little radical when it comes to those kinds of things. I don't mind taking upon myself confronting evil, confronting miseducation, disinformation. We are in a very significant position. When I look back on our ancestors and I celebrate Dr. Bethune, and I look at Dorothy Height, who was a president for 40 years, those sisters put their feet to the plow.
Yes,
They didn't let any grass grow under their feet. When they saw prejudice, oppression, or whatever, and I would venture to say they put their lives on the line. And so, you know, while we sit back and I too have a comfortable home and enjoy, you know, some of the benefits that have been passed down to me and I've earned because of my education, I'm ready to get on the battlefield. I'm ready to light some fire under some persons who refuse to advocate for people of color, particularly African American women. So if I sound a little excited, I don't mean to be verbose, but in terms of developing programs and working with our chairs, I want to take a little different spin. When I hear our national president talk about social justice, it's more than getting people to vote. It is looking at ourselves and having to do justice, us do justice in those areas where there needs to be a difference made. So I'm very happy to be a part of this awesome organization. The leadership is awesome, and we've got our work cut out. So thank you, Pat, for letting me kind of go on and on and on.
That's okay. Now we remember in the history, and I didn't give you all the facts, that Mary Cloud Bethune started with 28 organizations that she worked together. So I'm gonna throw that question back out to us. What organizations are we working with, and how can we make it better? Anybody?
Well,
let me answer that question.
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Rose,
Well,
go ahead.
We'll go with Cheryl first, and then Terry, you're behind her. Okay, go ahead.
Rose.
Oh, was it Rose?
I think that question leads into Good Health Wins and the agreement we have with the Center for Disease Control, in that we have brought in all the fraternities and sororities and the ASALA and so many organizations, several hundred organizations have joined together to get behind Good Health Wins and promote vaccinations and so forth in the African American community. And, you know, really, you can kind of attribute that, again, going back to our national president, because I think a lot of people don't realize that she was the senior advisor and director of external engagement during the Obama administration in the Department of Health and Human Services with the U.S. Surgeon General. So I think that she was probably instrumental in helping us get that CDC contract. And now I think it's done so much good. And there's so many people that are involved. And as a matter of fact, Rose and I were just speaking earlier, and Rose was saying that there are millions of people now that are involved in this Good Health Wins, effort.
Okay. Now, we're going to go back to Dr. Terry. Dr. Terry, tell us about the organization that you were part of that became part of the National Council of Negro Women. That joined with us. Okay.
Well, let me put something in context in terms of the National Council of Negro Women being an organization of organizations. If we were to step outside ourselves and identify those organizations that we personally belong to, I'm a life member of the NAACP, member of the League of Women Voters. If everyone who is a part of an organization taps those organizations and shares our mission, that's what gets us moving forward. I heard our president say she's a Delta. Well, you know, the Deltas are doing wonderful things. Kamala Harris is a Delta. I mean, I think she is. But at any rate, you know, organizations of organizations mean we come together as an organization, but we have beside us those organizations that we represent. Now, you asked me to respond to a question. Did I respond to that question?
You know what we're going to do is, Alice, do you have any questions right now that you want to ask?
Well, no, I just have a comment or suggestions. One of the things that I would like to see our organization do, and this may have to be some long range planning, but the need is for our youth. Sometimes parents, when they go to school to see about their child, they need someone to go with them, because if they didn't graduate high school and, you know, the teachers talk down to them, they don't know what questions to ask. And if they ask a question, they don't know what the answer should be. So we could think about starting something that parents can call us and one of us could go with them to the school when they have to go see about their children.
Okay.
And
Rose, I think that's your baby.
Yeah.
Young
that's
people.
what
That could be
Yeah.
a program that could be
And, you know,
cultivated under the under education, which is some of the ideas we've talked about. And we have some upcoming activities and things that will be focused on addressing parents as well as students in high school. One of the major things upcoming is going to be our True Worth Scholarship. We will be awarding a $1,000 scholarship to any senior or woman who is in a non-traditional setting. And we'll be getting that information out, and we look forward to those applications, which we do. This will be our coming up within the next month. Look for that information to be made available. And please reach out to one of us so that you can get that information and apply, because we look forward to awarding those scholarships every year. We also are looking forward to engaging our parents and our young people. We have some ideas of having book clubs and other activities so that we can outreach our young people and be a support to them, so that they'll better be able to function and manage some of the challenges that they are confronted with.
and it's our young males that are targeted and put in special ed when they're in 3rd or 4th grade, and they stay in special ed till they either either quit or graduate.
Well, we also have males in our organization. They may not hold office, but this is a unique opportunity for those males who are interested in getting involved in helping our young males. Join us. Because we can use your help and your support as we seek to create programming for our young males in the schools.
Males, yes.
One of the things that I'd like to
and, you know, something
bring up,
we
we
also
don't
should,
hear a lot about is, okay,
Go ahead.
one thing that I want to bring up when you talk about youth.
no, I was going to say something that we should also
When you
consider
talk about the
when you're talking about going on and mentoring is,
Wait,
I thought you
hold
said
on
go
1
ahead.
minute. We're going to Terry. Dr. Terry's on, and then it's your turn. Go ahead, Dr. Terry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things that we don't talk about and we need to talk about when it comes to youth and our organization, the National Council of Negro Women, we are about providing resources. Give you an example. Watch night service. A lot of people didn't understand the meaning of it. It goes way back when slaves were watching and waiting to hear about freedom.
Yeah.
Now, my pastor fast forwarded because we were in chains as slaves. Fast forward to 2024 when 4 young boys with ankle bracelets try to rob a place. Chains and chains.
Mm-hmm.
Consider there was a definite unfortunate population of our people on crack cocaine. We are seeing crack cocaine babies in schools,
Mm-hmm.
and there is insufficient attention given to the needs of those groups of people. We can talk about the ones who are highly educated and have the parents behind them, but my God, what about the ones that don't have support systems, that their
Those are the
families
ones.
need resources, that their mothers may have been addicted but now need intervention because they don't even know what questions to ask for,
Mhm.
so I guess I take a little more of a holistic approach to youth,
Mhm.
not wanting to over over overlook or deny others, but they are our youth.
Right.
They need us to promote them in education, but we also need to find resources for them, or maybe come together in a forum that's non-threatening to talk about the resources that are available for those suffering from mental illness.
Mhm.
Talk
Mhm.
about the resources, if your child has a problem thinking or hearing or processing. That's also a part of our responsibility.
Mhm.
Now,
Um,
Dr. Cheryl, you had something you wanted to comment on the topic?
Well, I was, yeah, piggybacking on that organization of organizations, when you talk about people needing someone to go to school with them. Now, and talking about resources, we maybe should be also referring people to some of the resources who are already doing that. For instance, the
Mhm.
NAACP. If you have a local chapter of an NAACP, they have an educational committee that goes out to the schools. Okay. Now, a
Mhm.
lot of communities don't have an NAACP, so therefore we could fill in the gap. But right now, that NAACP, one of its functions is to go to the schools, and the education committee in that NAACP should be doing that. And
Mhm.
when you talk about mental health, and also people being addicted, now the babies that are being born of mothers that have on fentanyl, they are. I don't know if you remember the word thalidomide years ago,
Yeah.
thalidomide babies. Those
Yeah.
babies are
Mhm.
now looking like thalidomide babies. And this is a whole new crisis. Babies with small heads, small brains, webbed
Mhm.
feet, webbed
Mhm.
hands. And who knows what's going to happen with the mothers who have babies and they're on this new crank. That hasn't been brought out yet, but we're already seeing in Pittsburgh fentanyl babies that are suffering terrible abnormalities. So,
Right.
Mhm.
there are some serious issues that need to be delved into.
Okay. And there are. We're going to ask a question of um, Rosalie. With Dr. Rosalie, will you talk to us about the Good Health Wins?
Yes, Good Health Wins is a program from the national. This is our fourth year. We're coming up on our fourth year. It federal grant from the CDC to our national, which filtered down to our local chapters. And we addressed issues related to the pandemic. And over the last 3 years, we initially started with trying to address the disparities among individuals of color not being vaccinated or understanding how to get vaccinated, nor having resources or insurance. And over these last 3 years, we've done a lot of work by organizing and coming together with sororities, fraternities, healthcare providers, other community organizations to form this network across our country, which is a very large network. We come together twice a month, the first and third Thursday at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., where we are educated to provide information so that we become trusted messengers to deliver appropriate and accurate information about the pandemic, about the need for being vaccinated, and how the benefits of being vaccinated. We've been very successful. And so as we think about this work, we think about our role in advocacy, and we are activating people across this country. And we have had tremendous success. And this is why we were just announced last night that we will be working with the CDC for the 4th year. And this year's efforts will be about bridging the gap. So we know there have been significant changes with how people can get vaccinated, the cost underinsured. So we will be working with the CDC and the funding that they'll provide so that we can raise awareness to make people aware that if they don't have insurance, they can go to the CDC. They can go to Walgreens, CVS, and a number of other places. We will be providing information, more additional information later. We have a meeting January 18th where we'll share that information, and we'll be out in the community raising awareness, letting people know where they can go and how they can get vaccinated. Because we know from the last 3 years, African Americans were the largest group to respond to the hesitancy that was promoted for disinformation. Our African American community stepped up to the plate and we overcame that. We are the largest group. We have made significant, but we still have a lot more work to do. So let me say the funding has been a tremendous help, and we will continue in our role to raise awareness, to educate, to motivate, so that we will continue to address this issue. It is very prevalent in our community. Let me also say that the progress that has been made has made a tremendous difference, but we still have a great deal of work to do. So anybody who's interested in health education and want to get out, and we've had luncheons where we do education, we've provided vaccination clinics, we've had fashion shows, we've done a number of things. So we don't just talk, we engage it with activities and programming throughout the year. And we are coming up on our 3rd year, and we will be moving into the 4th year. And so it's not only about vaccinations it was all vaccinations. So we know that our community oftentimes are reluctant. So while the pandemic kickstarted around the COVID vaccinations, we are now emphasizing all vaccinations because we know vaccinations help reduce our illnesses and improve our healthy outcomes. So this is one of the things I'm really excited about, and I'm looking forward to our year 4. And please stay tuned because we will be out there raising awareness, having activities and programming, and we look forward to you joining us. So as I said, sororities, fraternities, community organizations, schools, you name it, anybody who wants the information and get involved, we are willing to work with you. So please reach out to us. We are available, and we have lots of information and resources and materials that have been provided through our partnership with the CDC, as well as Vaccinate Your Family. So there are a whole host of prominent individuals who can provide us with information that we can share with you, and you can join us in this work.
Now, what age?
I have a question. Rose, what percentage of your audiences comprise of people who don't believe in vaccinations?
I think I don't have a percentage, let's say, but when we started this work a few years ago, we had a significantly high number of African Americans who were reluctant and who didn't believe in the vaccination. And this is, I believe, one of the reasons that the National Council was able to work with the CDC, because of their ability to network and for them to see people who look like them, who could communicate with them. So we have one of the programs that they started year 3 was a certificate, so that you can receive a certificate for a trusted messenger. We have educational activities where they give us materials and resources so that when we talk to our friends, our families, and our neighbors about this, we are knowledgeable and we're giving them facts and not misinformation. There are a few individuals out here who provide misinformation that, unfortunately, some of our younger people, the 25 to 35 year age group, is where we were falling very short. But we've seen some closing in that gap. But as I said, we have a lot more work to do because we know if we get vaccinated, we might get sick. It's also okay to get both your vaccination as well as your flu shots. Those are the kinds of things that we learn because there's so much information about not getting both of those shots, you're going to get sick. One of the things that they told us, which I thought was really interesting, is that if you get sick, it means that your antibodies are actually working. So because you're being given an injection, and so your antibodies kick in and they work, but you don't get as sick. So it's a lot of good information that we have. And our 18 years, so with the year 4 is going to be really focusing on anyone who's 18 years of age, underinsured, no insurance, because that is where we suffered, because we have a significant number of individuals who don't necessarily have insurance or underinsured. So this Bridging the Gap program is going to be working with, as I said, Walgreens, CVS, and there'll be other people coming on board. We are just going to kick this off in year 4 with this effort because we want to bridge. We want to make sure that all the work that we've done will not fall short, and we'll be able to continue.
Thank you, Dr. Smiley. I'm going to stop you right now because we have a caller on the line, and we want to be able to get that caller in. And then when we finish with the caller, we're going to go to Sonoris, and she was able to get back online so she can talk about membership. So, caller, hello, how are you? Okay, I guess the caller decided not to stay on the line any longer. So, Sonora, we need to come to you and talk to us about membership. How is our membership going? How many members do we have? What do they have to do to join? Can high school students join? And what about men? So tell us all about membership.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to hear everyone's voices and seeing me and hearing me half the time. We currently have 63 members in our organization. About one-fourth of our membership have become lifetime members. So we praise ourselves for that. That we do have that many persons who believe in our organization enough. They have become lifetime members, which means that they will always belong to the national. We're around anyone.
What about high school students? Can high school and elementary school students join?
Actually, at 12 to 18 is officially the age that we start with, and that's the youth. Then the college age would be what we consider our students. So anyone going on to further education after high school in any way, whether it's college or trade school or what have you. And we also have men in our group too. We call that the men associate members, and they join the national mainly. So actually we do parade around ages 12 to 18 as the beginning age. But any younger group, we could still have programs for them, which could pull them into our organization per se, as far as activities and growth.
All right. If they're interested in joining,
if you're interested in joining the group, please call my number. It's 412-867-9641.
okay.
We can explain more about the various membership.
Signor, I have a question for you on membership, please. You said that we can have members as young as 12 going up through 18. My question is, rather than a relative just buy a membership for your daughter, niece, or granddaughter, or what have you, what actual activities do you provide as a chair of the membership committee to young people who can better understand our history, and as they grow older, be more likely to stay committed to the National Council of Negro Women?
What did you say? What kind of activities would you have?
Yeah, focusing on the younger ages, again, I think some of us have just bought memberships for our children or grandchildren, but just giving a membership and not having them fully understand who we are and what we're about, what activities or future activities would you suggest as a way of educating them? Or maybe that's something that, you can collaborate with Rose on in terms of educational development for younger people who are in the National Council of Negro Women.
Well, Ms. Terry, we've had several conversations about that, and as I mentioned earlier, they've talked about having specific activities and programming once they assemble the young people together to hear what would be of interest to them.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same, because again, we can't make the assumption that we know what they need. I mean, in terms of programmatic activities. So we were looking forward to developing some programs that information, but also some activities, because again, when we think about what's available for our young people, there's not a lot of structured activities or places for them to go. A couple of ideas that have been thrown out is, having a fun night, a game night for family night. So there's a number of things that we've talked about that we plan to implement coming up this year as we go into our January planning session.
Yes.
We will be developing those activities and ideas and then looking to hear from our young people.
That's wonderful.
And
Even
I think
the headquarters
we
of
have
Washington, D.C., going to Washington,
in the past, we've had family bowling parties, and even this summer, I know there was a couple of picnic and functions outside that they had where they invited the entire family to come and be part of it. So, you get them in the door, and then we start using our influences and our information to let them know what's going on. So, ladies, as always, we are coming to the end of our show. One last word across the board. Make it short, make it effective, and tell us something that's going to bring the people knocking on our door to become members. We're going to end with our president. So we're going to start Rosalie, Dr. Griffin, Sonora, Alice. You can add in there, and then, but 1 minute to tell them something. Starting with Rosalie.
Good health wins. Make sure you get your vaccinations. That's the most important thing, and get involved to ensure that your family, neighbors, and communities have accurate information. Vaccination saves lives.
Thank you. Dr. Griffin?
I would like to say that we are standing on the shoulders of wonderful people who had vision and strength and willingness and perseverance. We must continue that way of being and that way of doing as a member of the National Council of Negro Women.
Thank you. Sonora, do you have a final word for us?
Don't forget to call me, 412-867-9641.
And then we're going to let...
We will have much to talk about. Our organization, we do entertainment for one another and around the city. We have picnics. We have wreath making. We do a lot of things that young people would thoroughly enjoy. And with them present, we will certainly come up with more activities and ways of making sure that they are informed of what's going on.
Thank you. And Alice, one last word?
No, I had a question for Dr. Smiley. At what age should the youth get the vaccination for the virus?
They said, it's all 14 years old that they can get vaccinated. That's not too young. Depends.
Okay. So,
and then I got to turn it over.
I ran into a couple of parents who feel their kids are too young to get the vaccination.
Alice, I got to turn it over to our president.
The information that we're receiving, that's not accurate, that they can be vaccinated, and it is helpful for them to be vaccinated. Okay. And they can check with their health department and the CDC and your doctor.
Please step in. Cheryl, your turn.
She's froze.
Okay. She's frozen. All right, ladies, thank you, thank you, thank you. Fantastic.
Okay,
There she is. She's back. There she is.
Okay,
I would like to
all right.
say that our dues are
Don't, we're not allowed to say the amount.
our dues are $70 a year.
Not allowed to
We're not
say that.
allowed to say any costs
Thing
for
about-
anything. Can't say that.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I
Oh,
missed that memo.
okay.
Okay.
Any
Well, we have
parting
many
words?
good things that we do during the year.
Okay.
Well,
We
sorry,
meet once
I was
a-
at the doctor's
we
appointment
meet
when you
once a
discussed some of
month.
those things, but
Would you tell them when our meeting is,
okay.
Cheryl?
Well, let me just say this:
Tell them
we
when the
have
meetings
many,
are.
we have many good things that we do during the year. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm leading into. We meet the fourth Saturday of every month. We either meet at the Churchill Borough Building or we meet in Braddock. And we have many events that you will love. We have Founders Day. We have meet and greet. We're going to have our Legacy Luncheon in March. This year we'll have the state conference in July, and we're bringing everyone here. And so we hope to really show them the wonderful side of Pittsburgh. And we have a holiday gathering. So we've been cautioned at our president's meeting. All the presidents get together, and the state president talks to us. We've been cautioned to make sure that we have fellowship, that people realize this is a sisterhood, okay? And this is an organization where, you can do anything, all those things that you care strongly about, you have the ability to do that. But we also have a good time getting to know each other and making sure people aren't lonely and alone.
Okay, thank you,
Cheryl,
ladies,
for
so much.
Thanksgiving-
And before we thank our
Thanksgiving-
guests for appearing on our program, we would like to say that Good Health Wins, the Women's Immunization Network, is our commitment to building an army of good health champions who understand the importance of immunization across the lifespan. Through our network of trusted messengers and grassroots activities, our goal is to increase vaccination rate, help remove barriers, and increase access to vaccinations and good health. We also like to thank Dr. McAbee, Sonora Watson, Dr. Griffin, and Dr. Smiley. And we would like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to inform our audience about the Rankin, Mon Valley, Pittsburgh section of the National Council of Negro Women. We'd
Thank
also
you,
like
Pat
to
and
thank our
Alice.
we also
Thank
like to
you,
thank our
Pat and Alice.
listening audience for tuning in, and we invite you to join the National Council of Negro Women by calling 412-867-9641 for a membership brochure. We need your help to educate, advocate, and positively impact families and communities in the Rankin, Mon Valley, and Pittsburgh area. Remember, our live program airs on the first Friday of every month at 6 o'clock. Thank you.